This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Tuesday, January 17th, 2023. So glad you could join us for today's show. And in today's show, I will visit with Eric O'Keefe. He is the editor of the Land Report magazine, and that conversation taking place recently at the Land Investment Expo here in Des Moines. And as always, we will take a look at the ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down the closing markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day, we are joined now by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, what did we see today in the grain markets?
Well, it was interesting because initially in the grains on the overnight, we were down quite a bit. And then we started seeing some strength as we started moving through the day's trading. Now, a couple of things. Initially, the pressure was on the grains because of China's economic growth rate in 2022 was near historic lows. Now, it only expanded 3%. Now, in 2021, they were up 8.1%. And barring the 2020 with the whole COVID and the things surrounding that, that was a growth of 2.2. So taking out 2020, it was the slowest economic growth for China since 1976. So that really put some pressure on the market in general. And so that was the negative part of the markets overnight. But the positive came in this morning. We had export inspections that were really good. So we had corn export inspections at 30.5 million bushels. That was an increase of 14.7 from last week. Beans were at 76.6 million bushels, up 22.7 million bushels from a week ago. Wheat, a little bit of a laggard, but it's a little different type of a market, up 11.8 million bushels to 4.1 million bushels higher than a week ago. We also had some overnight sales reported by USDA, 150,000 metric tons of corn for Colombia, and 119,000 metric tons of beans to an unknown destination. So there we had some positive news coming into the market. Now pushed March soybeans to a new contract, or I shouldn't say new contract high, a new high, reaching back to the highest level it's been since June 17th. So we're making some progress there, even though there's been some bearish news that did come into the soybean market at times. The support coming from Argentina dryness, and some of the good business yet we're still being done. We are seeing some progress as far as soybean price is concerned. Not so much in the new crop that was down today, but especially in the old crop, and especially in front month. Now, wheat came along for the ride, moved from negative to positive following the corn. Now, corn, Ukrainians' corn quality or Ukraine's corn quality is much worse than last year. At this point in time, their harvest is delayed from some of their later corn due to the weather situation. And from the Mexican standpoint, Mexico put a 50% tariff on their white corn because of skyrocketing internal prices, what they use for their tortillas. And they want to keep that on for their exports through the end of June in order to rein in some of their internal prices. So overall, we did make a nice turn today in grain. Looks up, and also, we still are coming on the bullish heels of some of the numbers off the World Supply and Demand Report that was last week, Thursday.
And Robin, on the other side of the livestock markets, or I should say on the other side of the ag markets, how has the livestock markets performed today?
Well, cattle market didn't do very well. Now, that's coming off of last week. There was a lot of disappointment last week as feedlots sold cattle $1 to $2 lower, $1 lower in the south, $2 lower in the dressed market in the north, or $1 lower in the south, $2 lower in the north. We were hoping for steady cash at worst. That didn't happen, and maybe some of it had to do with the potential for more strength in the grain markets, more cost to feed. They were at a standoff the last 2 weeks, and feedlots just finally wanted to move some of the cattle rather than holding them another week and feeding them. Now, the other part of the equation there is there a little disappointment or a little concern because the cattle that were purchased last week, 29% of those that were purchased were for deferred delivery. So they're carried over into this week, maybe next week. So the packers are staying ahead. And so even though there's been some tightness in the cattle market, there's been some really trying to pull teeth, trying to buy some cattle, they are able to get enough, and the deferreds, being able to buy the deferreds puts a little more pressure onto that market as well this week. Now, boxed beef prices were mixed at midday. Choice was up 42, select down 31. See, last week, boxed beef prices didn't do very well for about 3 days there, and that kind of resurrected the idea that maybe consumers reached the peak. We don't know that yet. Time will tell, but may have reached a peak, and maybe they're turning a little bit more over to pork. Pork is very well priced, but we need to see some more time for that to unfold. Now, of course, feeder cattle were down because of the strength in the grain markets. Corn price particularly pushing feeders down triple-digit losses. Now, hogs found strength today, other than front month, February. They were lower, but the rest of the complex found some strength. Probably two situations there. We had the market's very oversold, so it was ready for a bounce. The other thing is, as funds liquidated on the Commitment to Traders report, they liquidated 28,071 futures contracts, and that brought their net long futures positions down to only 21,437 contracts. That was a huge liquidation that took place on the Commitment to Traders report. So you got a combination of that, combination of an oversold market. I think that triggered some bottom picking, some buying that came in today. Now, we're not really seeing the strength being followed up on there with the cash and cutouts yet. Cash at noon was down just a penny. Cutouts were down $1.03. That changes by the end of the day. But we did see some strength in that market. Now, February is struggling because even with the decline we've seen over the last week, 2 weeks in the February contract, significant decline, it still has a premium to cash. It still has a premium to the index because they've fallen so much. So that's going to keep a lid on that market.
He is Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net, our market guest here today. Robin, thank you so much for the analysis. How can our viewers get in touch with you and the rest of the team at agmarket.net?
Well, they can call me directly at 877-256-3253, or they can go to our website, agmarket.net. The phone number's on there. They can call in. One of the brokers will pick up and be glad to work with them.
Well, thank you for the time as always, Robin, and we'll hope to speak with you again soon.
All right. Thank you, and enjoy always being on the report with you.
That was Robin Schmahl with agmarket.net. Let's turn our attention now to the closing numbers, and those courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart.
December corn up 10 1/4 at 6.85 1/4. New crop December corn up 5 1/4 at 6.03 3/4. May soybeans up 10 1/4 at 15.37 1/2. New crop November soybeans up 1/4 cent at 13.93 1/4. Soybean meal for May up 4.10 at 466.30. Soybean oil for May up 60 cents at 63.50. Chicago wheat up 7 even at 7.59 even. Minneapolis wheat up 5 1/4 at 9.11 1/4. And Kansas hard red wheat up 9 even at 8.49 1/4. May oats up 8 even at 3.66 3/4. On the Merc, live cattle for February down 72 cents at 1.57 even. January feeder cattle down $1.60 at 179.65. February lean hogs down 20 cents at 78.45. February pork cutout down 12 cents at 86.77, and Class 3 milk for January up 5 cents at 19.51.
And that's been a check of the Ag Market Recap here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. And when we return, Eric O'Keefe, editor of the Land Report magazine, will join me. This is AMPM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today I speak with Eric O'Keefe. He is editor of the Land Report magazine. And that conversation taking place last week at the Land Investment Expo here in Des Moines. It was a very interesting conversation with Eric. Excited to have that conversation for you today.
Mark Magnuson with the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined by Eric O'Keefe with Land Report magazine. He is, I believe, I'll let him tell us the title. Are you just the straight-up editor? Is that the correct title?
Straight-up editor. I'm not one of those hyphenates that needs 3 or 4 different. The buck stops here at that book. And so I'm in charge of the Land Report. We launched it in 2007, so we preceded the Land Expo by 1 year. I had my first visit to Des Moines and the Land Investment Expo in 2014, courtesy of T. Boone Pickens, who was the keynote speaker that year. I've come back every year. I'm waiting to get pinned. This is my 10th anniversary, and I'm waiting to get pinned, but this is such a perfect fit for our audience and our readers because we look at land as an asset class, and some of these folks here have been, they're centennial farmers, centennial ranchers. They're looking at the long run, and that's what we're about.
And Eric, could you just tell us also then how you decided that People's Company, Land Expo, all fits together with the Land Report, and it's just kind of one nice union between the two groups?
Oh, it's a great fit because People's Company has really seized on the Land Investment Expo as the #1 marquee event in the business, in the space. And so we want to be obviously affiliated with the top. And next year, think about who's going to be showing up here during the caucus season. Next year, that intersection of ag, farmland, the Farm Bill, politicos, that really motivates our readers to get a better understanding, and that's what this event's all about.
And Eric, I'm sure a lot of our agriculture viewers and listeners are aware of the Land Report, but for anyone that doesn't know, could you tell us about the publication?
Certainly. The Land Report, we're landreport.com. We have a print version that comes out 4 times a year with a special issue on Texas. And we are best known for producing the Land Report 100, which is a look at the 100 largest landowners in the United States, starting with Red Emerson and his 2 sons, George and Mark, with 2.411 million acres of timberland in California, Oregon, and Washington. And at number 100, we have the Boswell family in the Central Valley. In fact, they are the largest tomato producers in the nation. So I'm sure their 150,000 acres are a lot pricier than some of the higher ranked acreage holdings on timberland and ranchland.
Eric, I know People's Company for this event views Iowa as kind of the epicenter of this kind of activity. We're based in Iowa. Do you feel the same way when it comes to your publication and just kind of what agriculture means to the state of Iowa and valuing, I think, land ownership?
Oh, I thought it was great to hear the Lieutenant Governor speaking today, talking about Iowa's preeminence in the farmland space and talking about, the nation leading the nation in several different crop categories in research. And also when you look at, and that's one thing I don't think people understand, it was brought out well several times today, how much when you have a productive agricultural sector, it means products and services and other companies that come in and build out that infrastructure and those employees and make such an impact on a local, regional, and statewide community.
Eric, is there anything else you'd like to let our viewers, our listeners know about when it comes to a great event like this and what's going on with the Land Report?
I'm telling you, that Jimmy John Liautaud interview, if you missed it, you missed one for the ages. The founder of Jimmy John's started 40 years ago this week, and he gave us an amazing wrap-up on his career and why one of the most significant portions of his portfolio today is now farmland.
That's right. You heard that correctly. He is now heavily involved in agriculture, and we're always glad to hear that.
Likewise.
Eric O'Keefe with the Land Report. Eric, thank you so much for the time. Have a great rest of the expo.
Appreciate it. My pleasure.
That was Eric O'Keefe, editor of the Land Report magazine. As for right now, let's take a look at the ag weather outlook. Here in central Iowa, it's been the same story for a couple of days. It has been a little bit overcast, a little bit cool, and a little bit windy. And those three things have combined to make the days a little bit uncomfortable, but still not much to complain about as we do not have any snow on the ground right now here in Des Moines. But as we think about tonight's forecast, going to be increasing clouds as the night continues. And then tomorrow, looks like we're going to have some chances for snow around the state of Iowa. Looks like the day will begin with a wintry mix for most of those places that have chances for precipitation and then turning into snow. So let's now turn our attention to the National Weather Service, what the National Weather Service has in store for the next 24 hours.
As you can see from the National Weather Service today, we have a pretty uniform forecast across the state of Iowa, mostly cloudy and overcast here in the state. High temperatures in the 31 to 42 range. Tonight, mostly cloudy, a slight chance of snow in southwest Iowa this evening. Low temperatures will range from about 23 to 29. And tomorrow, it looks like some chances for precipitation for large areas of the state of Iowa. Wintry mix changing to snow. Heavy snow chances exist for Wednesday in northwest Iowa. And turning our attention now to our affiliate weather map for tomorrow. Cherokee, overcast and 30 expected for the high temperature on Wednesday. Shenandoah, overcast with some chances for snow and 34 degrees. In Des Moines, for Wednesday, wintry mix changing to snow potentially with a high temperature around 34. Similar case in Albia and Waterloo. Albia with a high temperature around 36, Waterloo 35. And as we head to far eastern Iowa for Wednesday, Clinton, high temperature around 39 degrees and some possible wintry mix and rain.
For a more detailed forecast in your part of the state, make sure and check with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook. And that also brings us to the end of this episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can find our video content and previous episodes of AMPM on our YouTube channel. And don't forget our twice daily market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. On behalf of Riley Smith and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.